It was supposed to be a dead system, no planets with life, no stations, just dust, broken moons, and a fading red star. But late one night, Earth's long-range receiver picked up something strange, a signal. It was weak, broken, repeating. But it had Earth code buried inside it, and the words, though filled with static, were clear. Please, help us, we are under attack. No time, no power, coordinates. The message cut out. It wasn't possible. That system Sigma 3 Delta was abandoned over 100 years ago. No one lived there, no one should live there, so who sent the signal? And what was powerful enough to need Earth's help? The Council ignored it. They called it a ghost signal, a leftover loop from an old outpost, a trick of solar radiation, but Earth didn't ignore it, because Earth had seen what others refused to believe, and Earth didn't send a scout. They sent the Death Fleet. 50 ships dropped out of warp at the edge of the Sigma 3 Delta system. Black holes, silent engines, no lights, not even the stars reflected off them. They didn't speak to the Council, they didn't ask for permission, they moved like a shadow. Leading them was the battlecruiser ENS Vindicator. Inside it stood Admiral Sarah Holt, a veteran of 5 wars and commander of Earth's most feared fleet. She stared at the star map. The signal had come from the third Planet-Delta-3, a frozen world with shattered cities and no atmosphere. It should have been empty, but there was power there, and movement, status, she said, minimal atmosphere, heat signatures confirmed, to no 3 cities still powered, unknown tech, and the signal still repeating, every 13 minutes, still human code. Holt nodded. Send the first wave. On the ground, black dropships landed. Without a sound, Marines stepped out. Full armor, visors down, weapons humming. They moved through the ruins like ghosts. No voices, no lights, just the crunch of broken metal and frozen ash beneath their boots. Inside the city center, they found something impossible. A working transmitter still running, still sending the same desperate call, but no one was there. No people, no bodies. Just shadows burned into walls and floors, as if something erased the humans, but left their outlines behind. One Marine whispered, This isn't war. It's erasure. Back on the ship, Admiral Holt received a new report. Admiral, we found a name. She turned a name. Yes, ma'am. On one of the old buildings. The soldier paused. It says, Outpost Eden. Holt went still. Outpost Eden was a secret top level, buried in Earth's oldest war records. It was the first colony Earth ever built outside the Council's charted zones. It was lost during the silent collapse, a disaster no one ever explained. Everyone believed the colony died. Everyone. Except Earth's black archives. Holt pulled up the ancient file. Red text flashed. Eden Protocol. Class Omega. Threat unknown. Planet sealed. All recovery denied. She read the last line aloud. Do not respond to any signals, no matter what they say. The crew went silent. Then the signal came again. Help us, please. Only this time, it ended with something new. A different voice. Not human. We're waiting. Admiral Holt's face hardened. She stood tall. Recall the scouts, full lockdown. No one else steps on that surface. But ma'am, not a word. Get them out now. As the Marines prepared to leave, one of them, Lieutenant Marek, heard something strange in his headset. A whisper. Not through the COMMS. Inside his helmet. He turned fast. No one was near him. He moved toward the sound, and that's when he saw it. A wall, covered in old Earth symbols, scratched in blood. Dozens of names. His name was one of them, Marek, but he had never been here before. He reached out to touch the wall, and screamed. In orbit. His vitals spiked. Heart rate tripled. Blood pressure rising. He collapsed before the dropship could lift. Off. His team dragged him inside. When they reached the Vindicator, Holt met them herself. Marek lay still on a stretcher, eyes wide open. UNBLINKING. He whispered the same thing again and again. It's under the ice. It's awake. It remembers us. That night, deep under the frozen surface of Delta 3, something moved. Slow, heavy. Alive. A massive shape, half buried in black ice, pulsed once. A signal bounced off its skin. The same signal Earth received. The same trap. This time, Earth answered. But it was not the rescue it expected. It was the beginning of something far worse. Back aboard the flagship, Admiral Holt stood alone in the war room. The signal played again. Only now it was clear to clear. You left us. We didn't die, we changed. Come see what you made. She turned off the console, and said for cold words, call the full fleet. Earth had many fleets. Only one was built for extermination. Only one had never been used in full strength. Until now, because Earth didn't send help anymore. Earth sent answers, and those answers came wrapped in fire. The planet was dead, but the voices still spoke. Not in full sentences, just whispers, echoes of pain. And every whisper came from the same place, beneath the ice. Admiral Sarah Holt stood on the bridge of the ENS Vindicator, staring at the cracked planet below. "Get me eyes underground," she ordered. Earth's deep core drones launched. They drilled through solid rock and ice, sending back images no one expected. Tunnels. Buildings. Machinery. Massive structures hidden for decades. And worse, they were powered. In one deep cavern, the drone's camera showed movement. Small at first, a shadow across the wall. Then came the noise, not mechanical, not natural, just breathing, and something blinked. Not a machine, a living eye. Watching. Recording. Back on the surface, a dropship returned from a failed sweep. Inside was Lieutenant Marek, still alive, still whispering, but not himself. His body was cold, his eyes wide open. Doctors checked his vitals. Everything was stable. As if his heart had become a machine. Marek suddenly grabbed a nurse's arm, tight, cold, strong, and said one sentence in a voice not his own: "The gate is open." Then he let go. And collapsed. Admiral Holt reviewed the body cam footage from the scouting team. She paused at one image. A wall inside the ruins with names scratched in blood. Dozens of Earth names, all registered with Outpost ID in a colony that vanished before Marek was born. He couldn't be on the list, but there it was, his name, and one more, S. Holt. Her own. She leaned back, breath caught. "Impossible," she whispered, but deep down she felt it. This wasn't just a call for help, it was personal. Meanwhile, orbiting ships in the Death Fleet began malfunctioning. Static across the comms, glitches. In navigation, the AI on board the ENS Templar shut itself down without warning. Before it went dark, it sent one message: intrusion not from outside, intrusion is within. Back on the surface, Earth's engineers cracked open one of the old colony's power cores. It was still running, but the design wasn't fully human. It was mixed. Human tech fused with something else, something not made in this galaxy. The engineers pulled back. One of them whispered, "This wasn't a rescue signal. It was a trap built to sound like one." In the deep tunnel, one drone kept going past the ruins, into the frozen ocean beneath the crust, and there it found something massive. A ship. Not Earth's. Not Earth's, not alien either. It looked grown, not built, covered in bone-like plates, no doors, just a giant glowing crack across the hull. Inside the crack, more names. Human names. All lost colonies. Admiral Holt stared at the footage. She felt cold. None of this made sense, unless someone had been collecting Earth's lost people, experimenting, changing them. And now, one of them, Marek, was on her ship. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red alert, unknown object detected rising from Delta 3's surface. It wasn't a ship, it was a tower, a massive spike of metal and bone shooting up through the ice. It pulsed once, and every ship in Earth's fleet lost power for 3 seconds, only 3, but it was enough when the lights came back. All screens showed the same message: "You answered our call, now we come to yours. The gate will open." Again, Holt didn't blink. She stood, voice steady. "Recall all surface teams. Pull them back now." Her second-in-command, Commander Reeve, looked worried. "What if we lose the planet?" Holt turned to him. "We already lost it." Then she whispered, more to herself than anyone, "Now we find out who took it." As the fleet pulled back into high orbit, a pulse of energy exploded from the rising tower. It didn't destroy it, but rising troscation, deep in the galaxy. In regions Earth had never explored, something heard it, and it began to move. Toward Earth, toward war. But Earth didn't run. They didn't hide. They did what they were built to do. They armed. Because Earth's Death Fleet wasn't made to answer calls, it was made to end them. The flames were still burning. 3 days after the signal, 3 days after Earth's Death Fleet arrived at Delta-3, that the cities were in ruins, the surface frozen, and the wind silent. But the fires never died. They burned in straight lines, perfect circles, no fuel, no smoke, and in the center of every fire was a voice. Marines stood around one of the fires, weapons raised. Lieutenant Marek stood with them. He was calm now. Calm. His voice was steady, but the others stayed away from him. He stared into the flames like they were alive. "They're not trying to kill us," he said. "They're trying to speak." One Marine asked, "Who?" Marek turned slowly and smiled. "The Forgotten." Admiral Holt watched the transmission from orbit. She didn't like what she saw. The fire, the symbols, the names. Earth's tech team scanned the flames and found something impossible. Inside the fire was code, not heat, not light, language, a message, written in burning plasma. Earth AI translated part of it. We remember the silence, we waited in ash, we burned for your return. Commander Reeve whispered, they're not ghosts. Holt said nothing for a moment, then gave an order. Send the diplomat unit. Reeve blinked. We're negotiating now. Holt replied, we're listening. The diplomat unit wasn't human. It was a speaking machine, or to talk to unknown life. It landed near one of the fires and began recording. It asked simple questions. Who are you? Why did you call us? What do you want? For a long time there was only silence. Then the fire changed. It rose upward, forming a shape. A human face, made of fire and code. The voice answered, not through speakers, through every ship's. Comes at once. We are the ones you left. We were your children, you made us, then forgot us. But we did not forget. The entire fleet heard the message. Ships stopped mid-maneuver. Engineers froze at their stations. On the Vindicator, Holt stood still. Her blood turned cold. She remembered the stories. The failed colonies. The ones Earth lost contact with. Not destroyed, left behind. She had believed they were dead. But maybe they had changed instead. Aura-6 asked one more question. What do you want from Earth? The answer came quickly. A choice. Return and face what you abandoned, or run. But know this. You came here with fire. So we answered in kind. Suddenly, every flame across the planet pulsed once. And from the ashes, they rose. Figures. Humanoid. Twisted. Some still looked human. Others did not. But all of them had Earth markings on their armor. Old logos. Old names. Even Earth's first flag. They were survivors, but they were no longer just people. They were echoes of Earth, and now they wanted to speak. Aura-6 was torn apart in seconds. Not by weapons. By a wave of pure static. Every ship in orbit lost visual contact. Sensors jammed. Shields flickered. Then the face returned on every screen. It was fire. Again burning. Smiling, and it spoke. You heard our call. Now listen to what you left behind. Admiral Holt gave the order. Begin fleet-wide lockdown. Full countermeasures. No external signals. Commander Reeve nodded. What now? He asked. She stared at the growing flames on the surface. We listen, and we prepare. For what? She replied softly. For the voice in the fire to stop talking, and start walking. Above the ruined colony, the Death Fleet remained silent. No one moved, no one fired. But in every corner of the galaxy, Earth began to change its posture. Weapons came online. Systems unlocked. Protocols activated. Earth had come to answer a call now. It understood the truth. The call was not for rescue. It was a challenge, and Earth had accepted. The Death Fleet had rules. 1. Never strike first unless threatened. 2. If you strike, don't miss. 3. If you miss, there's no second chance. And now, Earth was ready to break Rule 1. The fire beings on Delta 3 stopped speaking. They just stood there, watching, waiting. They weren't attacking. But the message was clear. Leave or be judged. Admiral Holt stood in silence inside the war chamber of the ENS Vindicator. The flames still burned across the frozen cities. The ghost colony remained still. No movement. No signals, but that was the problem. It was too still, too quiet, like something was holding its breath, waiting for Earth to make a move. Commander Reeve asked, you sure this is the right play? Holt didn't blink. They sent the signal. They wanted us here, but they didn't want peace. Then what? She looked out the glass, into the stars. They wanted to show us they weren't human anymore. And Earth had a reply. In deep space, far beyond the planet, a single ship uncloaked, ENS Archangel, a dreadnought built for one purpose, total destruction. It had only fired once in Earth's history. Now it charged. Again. Holt gave the command, target the fire tower, level it. The order echoed through the fleet. Everyone knew, this wasn't a warning shot, this was a message. Earth had come, and Earth was no longer listening. The Archangel fired. One massive beam of white energy cut through the void, straight. Precise. It struck the tower. The impact was blinding. The ground cracked. The flames vanished. A second later, the entire mountain exploded into blue light, and for a brief moment, it looked like Earth had won. But then, the sky cracked. Not physically. Not through warping space, but through sound. Every ship heard it. Every marine froze. A scream not human, not machine. A sound so deep it rattled bones. On the planet below, the burned cities twisted, buildings bent backward. Streets opened like mouths. From beneath the ice came hundreds of shapes, tall, dark, moving in impossible ways. Some looked human, some didn't, but all of them wore Earth armor, torn, burned, marked with colonies. Long forgotten, one of the Vindicator's officers shouted, "Admiral, new heat spikes. What are we looking at? Multiple life forms, no machines." "No, it's," she cut him off, plain English, "soldier. They're alive, but not biological. They're merged." Holt's jaw clenched. Merged. Human survivors. Mixed. With something else. Something alien. Suddenly, the command screens all changed. Text appeared, burned into the feed. "You struck first. Now we remember everything. You came with death. Let us show you what we became." From under the planet's crust, a massive object rose. Round. Black. Floating. Not a ship. A heart. Pulsing. Living. Built from metal, bone, and something Earth couldn't scan. The heart pulsed once, and all across the fleet. Systems flickered. AI froze. Jammed. Even Earth's most powerful war systems paused. Something had touched them. Something ancient. Something that knew Earth's code. Holt shouted, "EMP. Barrier. Now rotate I cordes." Move to fallback positions. Ships obeyed. Some rebooted. Some didn't. The Death Fleet, made of the strongest machines in known space, had been blinded. Only one ship remained untouched. The Archangel, because it didn't run on AI. It ran on something older, a human mind. The Archangel's captain, Admiral Lennox, stared at the rising heart. "Permission to act?" he asked. Holt replied, "Hit it again." He smiled coldly, gladly. The Archangel fired again. This time, not one beam, three. Each one shaped to cut through shields, flesh, or whatever that thing was made of. The beams struck. They hit. And the heart bled. A dark mist poured into space then. From the mist came voices. Thousands. Maybe. Millions. Screaming. Crying. Laughing. And all of them had one thing in common. They were Earth voices. Back in the war room, Holt whispered, "It took the dead." Commander Reeve replied, "No, it took the forgotten." On Delta 3, the heart pulsed again, and the fire-shaped humans rose higher into the sky, forming a ring around the heart, a shield. Earth's next shot would not land, and now, Earth had a choice: fall back, or send in the one weapon they never wanted to use again, the Revenants. But Holt didn't hesitate. She stared into the void, and said two words, "Open vault." From deep inside the Vindicator, something awakened, something born for war, not peacekeeping, not defense, pure death. The Revenants were coming, and this time, Earth wasn't sending a message, they were sending judgment. Beneath the ENS Vindicator, locked behind 10 layers of blast doors and forgotten protocols, something old began to stir. Not a person, not a machine, something in between. A voice, dry and slow, spoke into the dark. Order confirmed. Vault. Sigma breach authorized. Waking all units. The Revenants were not soldiers. They were not AI. They were failsafes. A last answer for threats Earth could not understand. Built in silence. Trained in nothingness. Their minds were copied from Earth's greatest warfare. But something went wrong. They remembered things they weren't meant to, and now they were awake again. Admiral Holt stood outside the vault chamber as cold fog hissed out. 12 pods lined the walls, each one glowing red. She looked at Commander Reeve. "You know the risks," he said. Holt nodded. "I know, these things weren't built to follow orders." "That's fine," Holt said. "We're not asking." The first pod opened. Out stepped a tall figure in black armor. No name, no rank. Only a tag burned into the chest plate. R1. Vecca. His eyes glowed faintly. Not cybernetic. Not human. Something else. He stared at Holt for a long moment, then spoke with a voice like cracking stone. "Target." She answered without flinching. "The heart." Vecca didn't respond. He simply turned, and the other pods began to open in orbit above Delta 3. Earth's Death Fleet held its line, but things were changing. The fire beings had spread into space, not in ships, in formless energy they clung to. Holes seeped into systems, whispered into crew heads. One pilot opened an airlock and walked out without a suit, smiling and whispering, "I remember the ice." The fleet couldn't wait any longer. Holt gave the green light, deployed the 12 black dropships launched. Silent, fast. Each one carried a monster Earth had tried to forget. They didn't ask questions. They didn't pray. They only landed, and cut, on the surface. Near the remains of the fire tower, the Revenants began their work. They moved like shadows. No heat. No signals. They didn't shoot unless it was needed. They tore through flame beings with blades made of neutron, glass, and sonic edges. One Revenant walked through a burning corridor untouched. He whispered, to a fire ghost, "I know what you are." The ghost stopped, tried to flee. but it was already gone, cut in half before it could even scream. Deep beneath the ice, the revenants entered the tunnels seen by the drones earlier. They found things Earth never designed, rooms shaped like lungs, walls that pulsed, machines powered by what looked like blood. In the heart of the tunnel was a sealed door. No keyhole. No panel. Only a sentence written in Earth standard. We waited. Revenant R1 placed a hand on the door. It opened on its own. Inside was a sphere of black light. Hovering. Singing. A sound like children humming. One revenant screamed and fell. He didn't die. He started laughing and then changed. His armor melted into him. His eyes burned white. And he turned on the others. The squad didn't panic. They moved as one. No hesitation. They changed. Revenant was torn apart in seconds. Then silence returned. R-1 spoke. The sphere is alive. Possible mind core. Begin extraction. Back on the Vindicator, Admiral Holt watched the data stream. Do they have it? Almost, ma'am, replied Reeve. But it's fighting back. The light pulsed. The tunnels shook. And all across the surface, the fire beings screamed at once. The sky burned with symbols. Earth language, but older. From the earliest colonies. From Earth before the Council, in orbit. Ships began firing on their own. One frigate turned and rammed a destroyer. The command feed filled with one word: awake. Holt didn't hesitate. She gave the final command: initiate protocol. Black Echo. Every ship in Earth's fleet shut down its AI systems, rebooted into cold mode, manual control only. The fire entity had learned how to use Earth's systems. So Earth went old-school, hands on steel, eyes on iron, humans against ghosts on the planet. The revenants reached the sphere. They placed it inside a null cage. The light dimmed, but before it faded completely, it whispered, "We were you. You are us. We only wanted to come home." The cage sealed. The revenants lifted off. The mission was done, but something had changed. The ghosts weren't screaming anymore. They were singing, and deep in Holt's mind, a memory surfaced, a sound from her childhood. A lullaby, the same song. The ghosts now sang. Word for word, but how could they know it? Commander Reeve looked shaken. "Ma'am, what are they?" She stared into the black cage now held in the ship's core. "I don't know," she whispered, "but we just captured a piece of something we abandoned, and it still remembers us." The Death Fleet had struck first. The sleepers had woken now. Earth had to decide: destroy what it found, or finally face what it had left behind. The song didn't stop. Not after the sphere was captured. Not after the revenants left the surface. It echoed through every hallway in the ENS Vindicator. Quiet, calm, familiar. A lullaby from old Earth, known only to a few. But now, something else was humming it too. Something that had never been to Earth. Admiral Holt sat alone in her private quarters, listening. She remembered the song her mother used to sing it when the power failed during rainstorms, but she never told anyone. It wasn't in the records, it wasn't in her file. So how did the entity inside the cage know? How could it hum it perfectly? Commander Reeve entered. He looked pale. "Ma'am, we need to talk." She looked up. "Go ahead." We ran a memory scan on the sphere's signals. Pattern fragments, hidden under the primary language. And they're not just sounds. He placed a data chip on the table. Holt tapped it. A hologram bloomed, images flashing fast. Children playing. Old colony buildings. People looking up at the sky. Then a voice whispered, "They said you would come." Reeve spoke slowly. "These aren't recordings, ma'am. These are memories." Holt stood. "You're saying the sphere contains people, or what's left of them?" Holt stared at the black cage holding the glowing sphere. Inside, the light pulsed gently, like a heartbeat, or a dream. Suddenly, the cage glowed brighter. An alarm blared. The sphere spoke again, clear, calm, almost gentle. "You left us behind, but we remember, and we were never alone." A sharp pulse hit the ship. All lights flickered. The sphere's energy touched the walls, systems, even minds. Marines screamed. Some dropped to their knees, but others stood perfectly still, eyes glowing faintly blue. When Holt rushed to the medbay, 5 soldiers had locked themselves in. They were repeating the same thing. "We see them. They're not enemies. They're what we became." Back in orbit, other ships began detecting strange new signals. They weren't from Delta-3. They were from deep space, thousands of light years away, all repeating the same coordinates. All using Earth emergency codes. The fire beings on Delta-3 were just the beginning. Across the stars, others were waking up. Forgotten colonies, abandoned labs, lost expeditions. All of them changed. All of them calling back. In the command chamber, Holt and Reeves stood over the map of the galaxy. New red dots appeared by the second. Dozens. Then hundreds. Each one sending out a signal. But this time, it wasn't a cry for help, it was a rally. The sphere spoke again. You sent us out. We built worlds. Then you left us. But we survived. We adapted. We are not alone anymore. We are many. Commander Reeve looked at Holt. His voice shook. This is bigger than one colony. Bigger than Delta 3. Holt nodded. They're a network, a species. She looked at the glowing sphere. No, she said. A memory that grew teeth. Suddenly, an alert flashed. Fleet inbound, but not enemy. Human. Ships, old Earth models, warped in near Delta-3. Scars on their hulls. Strange additions. Not from Earth. And not from any known alien species. They drifted close. No weapons raised. Their message played. We received the call. We came to protect our own. Holt stared. These are Earthships. Ancient models. Lost a century ago. But how are they here? Reeve checked the logs. They were listed as destroyed. All hands lost. Holt whispered. Not lost. Taken. Changed. Now they've returned. The new ships opened bay doors. And what stepped out wasn't fully human. Tall, gray-skinned. Eyes glowing. But they saluted. Earth's flag. Spoken Earth's tongue. And one of them said, we remember Earth. We chose to become more. Now, you must choose to. The sphere's light turned red. A new message came. The old world is waking. The stars are full of echoes, and war is coming, not from us, but from what made us this way. Back on Earth, deep under the Pacific Ocean, a dormant signal station blinked for the first time in a century. A message appeared on its old screen. Origin returning. Prepare or perish. And Earth knew. They had not just found their past, they had awakened something older than humanity, and it was coming home. The star was dead, burnt out, cold, lifeless for over 10,000 years. Astronomers called it Black Needle. It had no planets, no gravity well, no reason to exist anymore, until now, because the star was shining again and it shouldn't be. Far from Delta 3, Earth's long-range station picked up a signal, not sound, not light, a gravitational pulse, steady and rhythmic, like a heartbeat, and at its center, the impossible. The Black Needle star had reignited, but it wasn't burning like a sun. It was glowing with artificial energy. Someone or something had turned it on, and now, it was calling. On the ENS Vindicator, Admiral Holt stood over the star map. A new threat, a dead star. Coordinates linked to the same ancient code buried inside the sphere. The changed humans now, orbiting peacefully, warned them. That place is not ours, it is where they wait. What changed us is watching from there. The Death Fleet didn't hesitate. They turned toward the shining corpse of a star. 20 ships, 3 dreadnoughts, 12 revenants, and 1 admiral who had stopped being afraid. The Black Needle system was empty. No planets, no stations, just the star, glowing like a red eye. Holt watched from the bridge. All scanners active, shield full power. I want to see inside that thing. Reeve gave the report. No heat, no solar radiation, just structured energy. Structured. Yes, it's not random, it's building something. As the fleet approached, the light from the star began to change, from red to white, and inside that white glow, a shape emerged. It wasn't a ship, it wasn't a station, it was a gate, a ring 1,000 kilometers wide, black as space, and inside it a swirling mass of data, energy, and memories. Holt whispered, this isn't a weapon, it's a pathway. Reeve nodded slowly. To where? Suddenly, the sphere aboard the Vindicator spoke again. But this time not in a whisper, it screamed, do not enter. It sees you now. The eye is open. The fleet's systems began failing again. Shields flickering, weapons going cold. Ship lost gravity. Another's walls melted into static. Inside the gate, something shifted. A form. Huge. Vast. Looking back. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't alive. It was an idea, a consciousness made of code and suffering. The revenants began shaking. For the first time, they showed fear. R-1 fell to one knee. He said just one word. Origin. In the ancient records of Earth, there was a black project, a myth, a machine that was built to create life from nothing. To seed colonies with intelligence and control. It was never finished, never approved, but someone activated it anyway. They launched it toward the stars, and it did not forget. It had learned from the colonies. It changed. It had rebuilt itself from the survivors, and now it had returned, not to conquer, but to judge. The gate began to hum. Frequencies shook. The fleet apart. Some ships cracked. Some AI shut down forever. Only the Vindicator and the Archangel remained stable. Holt clenched her jaw. "This is it," she said. "We end it here." Reeve stepped forward. "Ma'am, we can't destroy a star." "No," she said. "But we can destroy the gates." The Archangel moved forward. It charged its core weapon, the Spear of Orion, a hyperlight lance designed to pierce planetary shields. The target, the center of the gate, one clean shot. But before they could fire, the star screamed again, and from within it came a fleet. Not ships, not alive, just shadows. Thousands. Glowing with fire, screaming in silence, coming fast. "Fire now," Holt shouted. The Archangel released the spear. A beam of pure light shot through space. It struck the gate and hit something solid. The shot bent, redirected. The gate had shielded itself. Inside the Vindicator, the sphere pulsed violently. It wasn't trapped anymore. It wanted to help, and in one final act of defiance, it transferred all its memory, all its pain, directly into Earth's systems. Blueprints. Weaknesses. The truth. The star wasn't real. The gate wasn't real. They were both simulations, a test. A final choice. Holt made her decision. Shut down visual feeds, cut sensors, run cold. Reeve blinked. "You want us to go blind?" "Yes," she said. "Because this thing feeds on what we see. If we close our eyes, it loses control." All systems powered down, manual controls only. The Death Fleet fought blind. The Revenants launched with only sound and instinct. And in the dark, something changed. The gate began to crack. The shadows screamed. The simulation began to fall apart. With one final push, the Archangel drove straight into the center of the gate and detonated its core. A light brighter than a star consumed the system. Then silence. Real silence. The star dimmed, the gate collapsed. And for the first time in days, there was no song. No whisper. Just peace. But far away, across the edge of the galaxy, a new light flickered. Another dead star. Another hum. And Earth knew. The origin wasn't done. It had only tested them. More was coming, and this time, they wouldn't be alone. No victory comes free, not even for Earth. The gate was gone. The fake star had dimmed. But across the ENS Vindicator, there was no celebration, no cheering, only silence and body bags. The Death Fleet had survived the test, but at a price. 7 ships destroyed, thousands dead, 3 Revenants missing, and the Archangel, Earth's strongest dreadnought, reduced to molten debris drifting in the dark. They had answered the call. They had stopped the gate, but something still whispered in the static. "There are more." Admiral Holt stood at the viewport watching the pieces of the Archangel float by. She didn't blink, didn't flinch, just listened. In her ear, a faint song still hummed. The same lullaby. Slower now, almost like a farewell. Commander Reeve stepped beside her. No new contacts, no more shadows. Holt nodded. "But that wasn't the end, was it?" He shook his head. "No, Mum." Earth Command opened a channel. The line was direct. High Chancellor Vora appeared on screen. "You did well, Admiral, but we have a problem." "What kind of problem?" Vora leaned forward. "The star system wasn't the only one activated. We've detected 9 others." Holt's eyes narrowed. 9, yes, and worse, each one is responding to a different type of signal. Reeve asked. "Different how?" Vora didn't smile. "Not all human. Earth wasn't the only one who had abandoned colonies. Other species had lost worlds too. Some never told the Council, some covered them up. Now those worlds were waking, and they weren't sending distress calls. They were sending invitations. Back on Delta 3, the surface was still scorched, but something new had begun to grow. Small plants, black soil. The fire beings had vanished. The sphere, now dim and silent, had been moved into containment, but even in sleep it pulsed, not with threat, but with life. Scientists discovered something in the wreckage. DNA samples. Thousands of them, human, alien, mixed, stored inside the ruins, protected. This wasn't just a test site. It was a seed bank. Delta 3 had been meant to be the beginning, not of war, but of something else. A new kind of life. Commander Reeve spoke with Holt in private. "I don't think they hated us." "I know," she replied. "They were angry, lost, changed, but not monsters." "Then why did they attack?" She looked at the burnt star charts. "They wanted to know if we would fight for our forgotten, or if we'd forget them again." Reeve nodded slowly. "And we did fight." She turned to him. "But now we have to decide if we're ready to listen." Later, a message came from the sphere. Its final one. Simple. Short. "You heard us, you saw us, now become more." Holt stood before the Council. The galactic leaders wanted answers. They demanded control of the sphere Earth. refused. We're not hiding it, Holt said. But it came to us. We paid the cost. And now we understand. She looked at the entire chamber. These signals aren't threats, they're warnings, and maybe invitations. Someone out there has been reshaping the forgotten, preparing them for what we don't know. But Earth will be ready. Some council members called her dangerous, others called her wise, but all of them listened, because in every corner of the galaxy, stars were flickering, dead systems were whispering, echoes of life once buried were rising. The Death Fleet didn't return home, they split. Half remained in orbit around Delta 3, now called Threshold. The rest went hunting for the other flickering stars, not to destroy them but to be there first, to listen, to decide, to remember, and deep in the cold dark, far from all light, the true origin stirred, not angry, not vengeful, just waiting, because the real test hadn't started yet. What Earth had faced was only the awakening. The true challenge was still coming, one not of weapons, but of memory, unity and will, and this time humanity would not be caught sleeping, because they answered the first call with war. Now they would answer the next one with hope, and whatever came next, they would be ready.